Yeah, so I wanted to say thank you and everyone for joining us again today. I know that this is the third and final session of our Masterclass series. That means you've spent 3 hours with us, or will have spent 3 hours with us, and we genuinely appreciate the time and you stopping by with us. So, this last session, as you can see, is from reporting to results, how MSPs are automating, analyzing, and scaling with AI. And as a quick introduction, if you can't tell, this webinar, the slide deck is significantly better, if I do say so myself, than last week, considering I had plenty of time to prepare it and with the help of AI and Canva. Not that I get, any sort of credit there, but wonderful for slide deck. So hopefully you all enjoyed today. But I'm your host, Byron Peoples. I'm a regional sales manager here at MSP Bots. And I'm joined by my friend and guest expert, Joe Turso. He is an MSP consultant. He's a co-founder and CEO of High Point Group. So about 25 years of MSP experience. And this is really his specialty today, is a lot of the good examples and use cases that we'll talk about are really from Joe. And he's been really incredibly helpful and providing his expertise today. But just as a quick overview, I wanted to run through the agenda with you so you can have an idea of what to expect in today's session. And I'll break it down based upon who will be coordinating each area. But Joe will give a quick recap of session 2, just in case you all missed our last session. He'll give you a Cliff Notes version of what we talked about in session 2. And then I'll explain why dashboards alone stall progress. And Joe will introduce the 7 drivers of scalable service delivery, then connect sentiment to a success plan. And I'll give you a live walkthrough of our live sentiment analysis demo. Joe will give you we'll show you how to get results in 30 days. And then we'll wrap it all up with some AI roadmap items that we have for the MSP bot side. And we'll do a quick Q&A, but just want to make sure that sounded okay with everyone. And we'll go ahead and let Joe give a quick recap.
To answer your question, Harrison, yes, this is being recorded. We will put this up on YouTube and you guys will have access to it and all that kind of stuff, the transcript included. So let's do a not so quick recap because I like to talk a lot. And again, as you can see, we're reading the chats, so feel free to ask a question at any time. Last time we talked about accountability and performance and sustained quality. We talked about looking at key heroes and realizing that we're doing burnouts. We didn't have balanced workloads and we had gaps in our service delivery. We were able to say we needed to spot these killers early. Things that people hate are cherry picking tickets. I don't say people hate, the techs love it. Service managers or leadership hate it. When one person is not doing the job the other person are doing, unclear on what expectations are of somebody, right? They have no idea what success is. And we learned how to say, okay, we were all looking at lagging indicators, everything that has happened, as opposed to leading indicators, things that are or about to happen. Ticket reopen rate, the client sentiment, CSAT. These are things that we're looking at, the things that are happening. All right. And we wanted to make sure that we implemented an accountability framework. When people know what success looks like across the board, doesn't matter what job you're in. If you know what success looks like, you know when you've gotten it. You got to know what levers to pull to get there. So when you have that clarity and consistency going in your job, and you can see visually that you're hitting it, you're going to get better outcomes. So what we do is we connect these actions with results, right? I always say do results-based management, but you have to coach the effort, right? You have to say, this is what I want from you. I want X, Y, Z. I'm giving you 8 hours. I want 6.25 back, right? I'm giving you $1,000 a day, and I want from that, I want a CSAT and 80% effective utilization, client-facing utilization. You have to know what the result is and what's expected of you, right? And to be able to pull the levers to do the right thing. So when we looked at this last time, we're saying when you look at lagging indicators, we're looking at the wrong things to get sustained quality, right? You can have these Herculean efforts, but it's not sustainable. And you get animosity in the team, whether this guy's just here and nothing's happening, and why if he comes in late, why can't I? All these little different culture killers when you have all these gaps. I bounced around, but basically it
Oh,
was looking at what has happened as opposed to what is and is going to.
yeah. And, how do we turn those metrics into motion, right? And we've covered, if you've attended any of the previous sessions, or even the why folks are moving from Bright Gauge to MSP bots, we talk about this a lot. And funny enough, we decided that dashboards are a mirror. And what we mean by that is they reflect what has happened in the past tense. We can see that there were SLA breaches. We can see that there's stale tickets. We can see that there's missed time and there's low utilizations. But truly, in order to be effective and run an efficient operation, we need a motor behind it, right? We need the ability to see, like, we need real time change. So whether that be, the automator, the operation manager needs to auto dispatch and triage, or we need time entry enforcement, or SLA protection, or even predictive prioritization. That stuff needs to happen in a moment, and we can't wait around till the end of the week to do a recap and identify where do we miss in the previous week. Or, if the funniest one that we come across, and it's the repeat offender amongst MSPs, is time entries. If we're waiting till the end of the week to fix our time, but what has happened between the initial time entry and the end of the week? A lot, right? So there's things that can be easily missed, we forget, and ultimately it's hard for me to track my time if I'm not doing it at a moment's notice. So turning all of the data that we're looking at in the dashboard and making it actionable using bots and AI will ultimately lead us to being more efficient, whether that be leading with a leaner team, or perhaps scaling, because we do need to hire new people in order to maintain the business as we're growing and building. So actually, Joe, I was gonna ask, I was gonna move on, but, like, I guess from there and from your initial thoughts, like, any feedback there, anything that maybe I missed that the attendees might appreciate there?
So I am a firm believer in progressive time entries, right? Progressive time entry, I mean, I'm entering data as I go. The reason why I do progressive time entry is because doing that time entry is part of delivering the service. And if I put in a time entry more than what I think is a 5 minute gap between when the service was delivered, right, that's an alert, right? If I haven't put in a time entry, it's a bot. If the SLA is going to be breached, it's a bot. So putting these safeguards in are no different than having a person continually watch the clock to ensure that the experience for the client and your experience are all optimized. Knowing that you did a ticket incorrectly at 9 a.m. prevents you from doing it correctly all day. You're not putting the configuration. You forgot to do this. It's not categorized, right? The more coaching you do, right, the better the results.
But and I figured that instead of doing the Q&A feature with teams, I'm just going to go ahead and since everybody's active in the chat, I'll post a quick question that I had there. And if it's you could automate one reaction to a metric, what would it be? So feel free to think about that, answer it as we go along, which, I think even Joe's going to prompt some ideas here within the 7 drivers of scalable service delivery. So, Joe, I'll give it back to you, and
All
here's the
right.
first one.
So client experience and retention, the levers that compound, right? Client's experience. When we talk about the client experience, we talk about sentiment, we talk about standardization. We talk about predictable quality, right? When we know that the client is happy, not just after fact, but during the fact, and when we know the the ability to help them run their business more effectively, we have higher retention. So the levers of that is, well, obviously one of them CSAT, right? But another one of them is time entry. Are we communicating effectively? It is quality of content. So it's important that we talk about the very first is the quickest way to lose a client is through service, right? So that's what we're talking about. Now, it's not service's job to may, hey, this is a 10-year-old server, it's Windows SBS 2008. You got to keep it running. But it is their responsibility to communicate, set expectations, and keep the client updated. James is correctly right. Responding to customers' updated ticket. All right. What does service delivery and SLA performance get? Again, we always talk about SLA performance, and I'm going to twist this into an XLA, right? An experience level. Just because you meet your metrics doesn't mean your client's happy. But if you take number one and number two, right, you've got almost the entire picture. Is the client happy? And did I deliver the service by managing that expectation correctly, right? Did I pull the right tickets? Did I set the right priority? Did I manage the expectation? And did I do it under my contractual time? If you're having a contractual time conversation with a client, you've already lost them, right? But if you're saying, hey, we're doing everything well within our expectation and your people are happy, right? That is 75% of the picture. What's the other 25%? It's team. Are your team happy delivering that service? Are we stressing them out? Are we overworking them, right? Are they taking too long? Are they doing stuff just to get numbers versus solve root cause? Right? Your team has to be happy in that service. That's the service delivery part.
Team, happy clients.
Right? They say it's the job of service delivery is to deliver happy clients. But on the flip side of that, let's talk about operational efficiency and performance, because we also have to do what? Make money. Not too many MSPs I know are 501c charitable organizations, so they'd like profit. So we have to do it in the most efficient manner possible, right? And that's called least cost resource routing. So from operational efficiency, we need to make sure that we're getting the right ticket to the right tech to do the job in the quickest manner correctly. That's a lot, right? That's your ticket triage. That's your next ticket. That's getting dispatched correctly or coordination correctly. It's making sure that you're looking at team utilization. It's making sure that you're looking at labor loaded gross margins. You have to know what's happening and what has happened to be able to predict what changes you need to make. Well, there we go. And then that leads to profitability and agreement health. There's three levels to profitability, mostly in service, right? You have your managed services agreement. Let's take out any software licensing and all that kind of stuff. This is just the amount that's dedicated to supporting the agreement and labor. When I take out my hard cost of goods, my antivirus, my tools and stuff like that, and my labor, right? That's my labor loaded gross margin. That profitability and agreement health has to be a certain number. We're saying between 60 and 70% for service to be healthy. And then there's the profit side. Now I have to take everything else out, all of my sales, all of my tools and automation and all that kind of stuff, my other people that are supporting that service delivery. And now I have my net profit where we want it to be 20% or more. So keeping those costs, right, in line with operational efficiency makes the agreement healthy and makes the company profitable. I know I simplified that, but it's how it works.
Just fine.
Right? And then escalations and process maturity. If you need somebody to babysit your escalations and your ticket flow, something is wrong, right? your escalation people or your highest cost resources should do the least amount of work, right? Maybe 5% of the tickets should be there. Their job should be mentoring others, right? Helping figure out if it did come to them, how to make sure it never happened again and what processes they need to do to ensure a lower level resource needs to can handle it next, right? Through documentation, SOPs, or maybe we got to replace something. That process maturity and how that flows tells you a lot about your operations. When you have a trigger to develop a process from a gap, right? Hey, this happened. I got this ticket and I shouldn't have, right? That's got to trigger something to say, how did that happen? Let me fix my process, not just the issue. Proactive support and prevention. Nothing stops a problem like the problem not happening, right? So it's not really the service side, the reactive side to fix every problem on the proactive side, but they are able to identify them. What keeps failing, right? What is in the CS team is continually failing, what's continually causing the alert, and how do we stop that? Right. And now let's get our account managers or maybe our project team or our professional service say, hey, we need to replace this or we need to tweak this. Something is not right because we're getting a lot of noise from this device, this person, this application, this vendor. Right. Understanding what is causing reactive noise, because if we stop the reactive noise, and of course you never stop it, but if you can have one ticket per end user or endpoint managed every 4 months, so that's a 0.25, right? Then you're world class. So you look at your client initiated incidents, and if it's more than 0.25 a month, then you know you're not being proactive enough to prevent it.
Joe, you won't believe this, but you have one more.
Team health and internal. Well, no, team. I mean, this is important, right? This is where we'll go back up to 1, 2, and 7. That's a holistic picture. It is looking at, is your team facing burnout? Is your team educating themselves? Is your team showing up on time? Is your team meeting their average time per ticket? Right? Is someone doing more than the others? Is this person doing documentation? Having that view of the health of the team and the individual and being able to set those expectations and manage them internally creates a better service delivery and client experience. So the more in line these 7 levers are, right, the smoother your operation will run.
So if it's okay with you, I'd love to unpack that a little more, specifically number 1, and let's connect that to a success plan, and that's going to be your client from sentiment to success plan. This is all you, Joe.
All right. So yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking at what's coming up.
Yeah.
So we use the client sentiment a lot. So what that is every ticket flow, every email from a client coming in and out, and every communication from tech going in and out goes through an AI analysis that says, was this a good experience? Was this a bad experience? Or was this a neutral experience? Right? So one of the most powerful leading indicators, if you can have somebody go from a neutral to a negative or a positive to a neutral, right? We know that is a decrease in experience. We can monitor that and respond to it in almost real time. So it's called near time action, whereas it probably takes 10 minutes to get this notification to get actionable. So when you see these negative interactions on a ticket, and I'm not talking about the initial ticket, we're like, hey, everything's on fire. We know that's going to be negative. But it's the communication following it, or it's the type of language they're using for the first one. Could be the red flag that you use, which we have used in the past to say, hey, let me get ahead of this. What's going on with this client? What's happening? And we're able to turn that sentiment around just by picking up the phone and calling, getting the right people involved, escalating the ticket correctly. But we actually saved a huge client who was just having a perception issue. Right there, it was a third-party vendor out of the control. The language was going bad. There was a lot of negative sentiment. We're picking up the phone. We're like, look, we're we are sitting here with this vendor. If we could go walk over there and do something, we would. And not that we were throwing the vendor on the bus, but we were limited in our response. And the customer just said, hey, it's IT. It has to be us. And we're able to stop that. And we're able to change the perception and then change the tone of the conversation. And that ticket ended up being a very positive experience. And we got a positive CSAT and at the end.
A phone call never hurts, right? And that quick phone call where there's a negative sentiment achieved, which could long term, that negative sentiment over time leads to a potential churn risk, and you're wondering why at the renewal that client's not re-signing, or they're shopping other services. So all good feedback there. And actually, we're going to do something that's highly recommended against on a webinar, and we are going to go into a demo. So if you'll give me 1 second, I will do a quick screen change, and hopefully there's not too much of a lag there. As Joe's, keep me honest, is that populating okay on the webinar?
It's off. You got to slide the slide thing.
Oh, again, I should probably do a Microsoft Teams certification at some point. I use it enough. I should be better than that. Anyways, so I know that there's quite a few MSP Bots clients on board today. If you're unfamiliar with the sentiment analysis app, it's available to MSP Bots clients in the professional bundle. It is exclusive to Autotask and ConnectWise users today. We're hoping to roll it out at a later date to Halo users. But for those that are using ConnectWise and Autotask today, we have the ability to see that sentiment analysis in real time. So through those customer notes and the ConnectWise or Autotask tickets, we're able to identify where's a positive sentiment, where's a negative sentiment, and where's a neutral sentiment with those tickets. And why that's important is I often on the pre-sales when I'm connecting with prospective MSP Bots clients, and we discuss if they have a CSAT solution, or perhaps they're just using the surveys that are in Autotask or ConnectWise. Roughly 10% of those surveys are getting answered on a month-to-month average. And I just go back to my experience with surveys. If I go into an email and I purchase something and I have the option of clicking 1 to 5 stars, I click 5 stars and then I have to fill out 20 different survey questions. I'm not very happy. That's a negative sentiment. But we can measure that those sentiment across ConnectWise and Autotask tickets and understand are we providing good feedback? Are we getting positive feedback? Are we providing negative feedback? But that's just the mirror, right? Like I can see that we can see this across the dashboard, which is lovely. And I can also understand what's that sentiment trend amongst my resources. If there's negative sentiment across multiple clients in one resource, that becomes an easy conversation to have with Joe and understand what's going on with his client interactions and why is there a negative feedback across those clients. But again, that's the mirror. We want the motor. So how do we make that actionable, and how do we tackle some of those negative sentiments alerts and real negative sentiments as they happen? That's where the bots come into play. So let's say for the pre-built, the negative sentiment alert within the sentiment analysis app is established for three negative sentiments achieved within a week. So say client A or Hive Point Group has 3 negative sentiments achieved in a week. I want to receive an alert because that's a red flag for me. If that client's unhappy 3 times within a week, I can trigger an alert to their technical account manager and say, hey, Joe's unhappy. Here's his list of tickets. Here's the suggested prompt or suggested action from OpenAI, which is the default AI engine used for the sentiment analysis. We need to reach out and smooth things over. So that gives us an opportunity to, again, address things head on, make a quick phone call to the client and soothe those negative reactions without that turning into a long-term issue and a potential churn risk down the road. You also, with that sentiment alert, you can have this go to a direct message to the individual if you'd like, depending on how you want to deliver that message. You also have the opportunity to have it go to a public channel. Both have benefits. I found that designated a public channel for your critical alerts lets everybody know, hey, if there's an alert that pops up here, this is all hands on deck. We need to make sure that we address this appropriately. So I will get back into the slide deck here real quick, and it will probably not start off from where I left off, which is just fine.
That's fine. So Harry wanted to know if we have an ETA on the Halo sentiment analysis.
I do not, Harry, unfortunately. I know that is something that the development team is looking into. Halo, candidly, is still a new integration for us. So we're working on getting that on the roadmap. I just don't have an ETA of when that would be available. But once we do, go ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead. No, go ahead and finish it.
I was going to say, we do have, if you check in your MSP bots on the homepage, you should see at the bottom links to our CANI, which is, you'll see integration updates, requested features, as well as roadmap items.
Daniel, your question, that screen he was on, you saw the grid with the thumbs up, thumbs down. The good question is, do you fine tune it? Absolutely. So this is out of the box tuned for most MSPs, not your MSP, right? So when you're going in there, you should go in and randomly, like normally we have triage people, validate or devalidate the sentiment, because you can see what the sentiment is and why they chose positive, negative, or neutral. Because what I do is I look at clients, if I have all neutrals over a period of time, I need to go find out why they're disengaged. If I have negatives, I want to make sure that those were negatives, right? Positives are public, so everybody can see that. And of course, if it's wrong, somebody will say something. But the negatives and the neutrals, you need to go in there and thumbs up, thumbs down. But don't mistake that you should also thumb up positives so it knows what good looks like, just like your text. AI, like everything else, has to learn. It's intelligence, but it's got to become intelligent. So yeah, a big part of client sentiment is making sure that you train it to your company, your client, your language, and you do that through the use of that dashboard, the last widget with the thumbs up, thumbs down. Because if you do a thumbs down, it'll say why, what sentiment did you expect, and you put it in there, and you put, should it be this, and ask a couple of questions, but then you go. Which is why really we say, okay, maybe 20% of the sentiment, well, you check or you fine tune, and you'll see it improve over time. It took us 3 months when it was in pre-build. It went from 70% to almost 98% accurate when we were building it out for us. But you do have to invest. You got to make it part of your process.
And speaking of the process too, just to touch on that, we're starting to see more and more MSPs that are using the sentiment analysis app and incorporate the negative sentiments by resource into their one-on-one meetings, because this is a new use case for us. So because that is new, there are different ways that it's being introduced, and being able to bring this up in your one-on-one sessions and understand, what is there something personal, or is there anything that may be affecting the individual that is causing that across those tickets? So just another way that you can leverage the dashboard that we just shared. And Joe, if you'd like, we can go into your 30, 60, 90-day plan.
He's got another question here. The data is being sent to a centralized open AI use. I believe that MSP bots has their own instance, so it is using a shared but a secured model.
Correct. And I have when we talk about at the very end, Daniel, I I also have a slide breakdown too of the data and security policy there. So I'll share that with you, and then I can also get you some more details after today's session if you'd like. Joe, you're much better at keeping an eye on the chat than I am.
30, 60, 90 days, right? How to make this a reality in one quarter. Never rush anything. You always have to think, plan, and do. So the first thing you want to do is enable the tracking, right? There's nothing that's going to help it get smarter without enabling it. So you turn it on, let it run, see what happens, and then start setting your thresholds. I want to know when there's, at the beginning, I need to know every negative sentiment, push it to a Teams channel or something like that so we can just monitor it. And yes, no. And then set a recurring ticket template. I believe if you schedule, it'll happen. And let me just go review. All right. So I'm gonna spend 30 days fine-tuning the model. When should the account manager be notified? When is the tech going to be notified? When should the service manager be notified? At which thresholds are we doing things? So even if we have our own Azure AI provision sentiment analysis, we'll be using the shared. I don't believe that's true. You can connect your own OpenAI. It's one of the integrations you get.
Right. And if you check, and I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the chat for you, so that helps. So, and this is going to be, that was going to be the part I was going to address at the very end, was just how we're leveraging Azure OpenAI and what that partnership looks like.
But anyways, we're going to sit here and we're going to set our thresholds. We're going to set our daily disciplines. We're going to set our process to say, I'm just going to let this run and I'm just going to start tweaking. Thumbs up, thumbs down, right? Goes right to Daniel's point. Dan's right. You want to make sure the thresholds start giving you the results you want. And then 30 to 60 days, you're going to start automating your playbook. You got your 7 drivers. You're going to have an owner for the driver. You're going to say, okay, you're responsible for making sure the CSATs are happening. You're responsible for making sure that the QA portion of the tickets are getting done, right? You're going to do churn prevention by aligning the drivers to your Q&A and client, not your client training, well, your client onboarding, but your tech training. I'll say this and it'll sound bad, but really the key to getting techs to do things consistently is correcting the problem and as close to the near time as possible. It's like training kids or training dogs, right? You can't come the day later or a week later or wait for a check-in to say you did this wrong. You got to say, hey, well, you just did this and it was wrong. Let me help you fix this. So the sooner you do that, right, the sooner the problem gets resolved. And you start lining up these bots and widgets and give them clear visibility to what success looks like, and then put the guardrails up to help them get there. Right. And then once you have all this in place, all this automation processing clarity, you flip the switch, right? You're going to say, hey, we're going to start running. And when something gets close to that SLA barrier, I need to trigger. Something needs to happen. Let me know. Hey, this tech is going over time and it's going to hit this trigger because I know that my individual metric is going to feed up to a KPI. Right? I know where I fit. And again, then that helps you create QBR. Does everybody know what a QBR is? It's more set. Well, yes. But people do quarterly business reviews, or sometimes they're called TBR, technical business reviews. They want to say, here's the state of affairs that has happened. Again, these are all lagging, but you can predict leading. Hey, you have a 98% client sentiment rating with their day-to-day interactions with our peeps, right? Your people are happy dealing with our people. Now, that's not NPS, because I think NPS is outside the realm of service delivery. It touches all aspects of the company. But if the NPS is positive, right, the net promoter score is saying the company's doing good, the CSAT is positive, where 94% or better, and the client sentiment is positive, and quite frankly, if your ESAT is positive, you're doing something right as long as you're making money. So you have to go in there and pilot this and say, are these changes, are these guardrails getting me the results I want? Don't live with bad results. Don't think just because you put something in, it can't be tweaked. The whole reason you pilot is to ensure your processes support the results you want to get. So have somebody responsible for it, roll it out, and if you do this continual improvement, could be daily. Am I getting the results I want? No, tweak it. Am I getting the results I want? No, tweak it. Am I getting results? Yep. All right. Can I repeat those results for a couple of days? Yep. Then we're good. But this is why it's not, hey, just do it today. You have to create that playbook and then test that playbook. Then you can go and execute.
Speaking of guardrails, it just reminds me of going to the bowling alley and having the bumpers up while you're training to bowl, and then once you get good enough, you can finally take those bumpers down, and you're bowling strikes on your way to 300. Not that I'm a bowler, just that
You're a
really speaks
baller. You
volumes.
get it, Byron. I'm looking at your slides. I got you.
I will, before we hit the Q&A, I figured I'll kind of skip forward actually to the kind of that, since there was a few questions in the chat, I will talk about the AI triage roadmap. We've talked a lot about this year, this year, if you've attended any conferences or trade shows, there's a significant amount of them recently. It just seems like there was a gauntlet of conferences. And Joe, if you attended last session, you know that Joe attended from during a fire alarm. So thankfully there were no fire drills this time. But you've heard Daniel talk a lot about the AI triage, and that is on the roadmap. So the alpha testing, we have 20 participating clients. That's targeted to start the last week of August, so the week of the 25th, next week. And that will be a 4-week testing period. Depending upon how clear that is on your screen, you might be able to see some of the features there, and I'll read them out loud to you. But ticket categorization, being able to automatic ticket field updates. So with ConnectWise, there will be 5. You have your board, type, subtype, priority, billing code. With Autotask, there's 6. So you have queue, issue types, sub-issue type, etc. And some of the other areas that we'll have are spam ticket filtering, so route spams to designate a dashboard for human review. So we'll be able to identify, is that truly spam or is it not? Duplicate ticket merging, a big one that comes up on the pre-sale side. Like, how can we identify and consolidate duplicate tickets? AI generated ticket summaries, so creating subject lines and ticket summaries within those tickets. And the clients will have full control over which fields AI updates via enable and disable toggles. So as I mentioned, some of the PSA support that we have today, or that we will have rolling out for AI triage, will be ConnectWise and Autotask. On the technical architecture and compliance, if you check the chat, I did drop a quick snippet of it, which is actually just a copy and paste of this slide. So you can see that we're using, OpenAI ChatGPT. Currently, GPT-5 is being tested, and the system will automatically generate default triage rules based upon the client's PSA setup and historical tickets without manual setup required. And then in terms of the security and governance, we have Azure OpenAI partnership as the default AI model provider, and there's no data retention for training in Azure AI, OpenAI. Launch timeline. So this is tentative. If if you've ever demoed software before, there's always an ideal release. So we're expected to release this to existing clients by late September, early October. So that's when we're planning to release, so be on the lookout for there. And then pricing details aren't available on the website yet. We're still working through what that model looks like, but we'll share those details once that is released, or closer towards the release date in September or late October. All right. And what's next? So this, obviously today, this will conclude session 3 of our Masterclass series, but Joe and I are in the process of planning some more webinars in the future. We got a lot of really positive feedback on why folks are moving from their current dashboard and reporting setup to MSP bots. We're going to work through and tailor some more specific use case to where we can really hone in on gaps in the business that folks like yourself are would like to see improvements from. So be on the lookout for that. But if you want your own personal MSP bots demo, if you're not an MSP bots client today, take a look at the QR code, scan it with your iPhone, schedule some time with myself or Woojin Cho, and we'll be happy to walk through a live demo with you. And if you want to let us know ahead of time what solutions you're using, we'll tailor the demonstration to your needs. And then, Joe, if you want to talk a little bit more about your consulting practice, where you can offer support, I'll be happy to let you take it from there.
I want to jump back real quick to the client sentiment, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the whole scope of this masterclass series is measuring what matters, right? You have to measure what matters. And when we talk about client sentiment, one of the nice features of this client sentiment with the integration is that it writes that sentiment total, like you could have positive, negative, and neutrals, and what the weight is, right, gets written back to that ticket. So with that ticket, you can report on what was the client sentiment, how did the client feel about the interaction, and then you have the client CSAT. Maybe that you do have a low rate of return, or they're not doing the client CSAT. But if you have the client sentiment, the client CSAT, and the tech metrics, you can see what works, right? It is important to recognize positive outcomes just as much as negative outcomes, so you can see what happened that you can repeat, right? What did this person do different to get these better results? Measure the outcomes of what you're asking for, so you can help people achieve these results. I know we're very much talking about leading indicators. The leading indicators are for what's happening now, to help people learn from their mistakes or learn from their successes. You must measure and take action on what just happened, right? Hey, you had a good day, you met our goals. Or that next day in the huddle, they're saying, hey, I was instead of 0.5 time particular, I was 0.75. I'm taking too long. I can't figure out why, right? Measure what matters and help it to use to improve people. Because the vast majority of the people that you're going to work with want to do good, right? The people that don't shouldn't be there because of a culture fit, not from a lack of technical desire. Companies that hire and fire by culture, and people who want to work someplace because of the people that's where coaching comes in. That's where growth comes in, and that's where analysis helps identify areas of improvements and areas of strength. Don't forget the areas of strength. Don't forget to look at what is working, and don't forget to celebrate that. That is just as important as fixing problems. I know we are a problem-fixing industry, but as leaders, right, we are also there to praise. We are also there to encourage. We're also there to mentor. And we're all, as humans, we're here to help.
Absolutely.
So, with that, we do process consulting, and we do obviously advanced MSP bots implementations, and we do stuff that they can't do with their own tools because we are pretty cool.
I won't refute that. I mean, I remember the first time we met and you were telling me about like some of the use cases you guys solved for it. And I was just, we can do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm very familiar with it. I've been in the MSP industry for 25 plus years. I've been in technology for 40. I have a thorough blueprint that maps you through strategy to execution, both from the service delivery side, but also on the other side, such as the proactive side, the sales and marketing side, the not so much finance, but I can do it, just don't like it. I got somebody else for that. But it all flows, right? You can't have a service ticket without billing. So you have to have this in strategy, and that's what we do, as well as AI gateway services. So you talk about bringing your own AI. We have an AI gateway services that connects 1 to 22 so models. So it's pretty dope.
Good. And Joe, quick question. I'm trying to recall the post webinar. Our demos they're posted to YouTube, correct? Or
They're
how are
posted to
the
YouTube. Correct.
okay, got it. Yeah. So Dean, there you go. I was in the middle of typing it out, but I'd rather just ask a question and share it with everyone. So since we
It's
have
generally
a
with
couple,
about 24, 48 hours, we're gonna pop it up and then I'll get it and I'll pop it up on my site as well.
and we'll just gotta make some edits, make sure it's a nice clean YouTube video. But we have a few minutes to get left, so I figured if it's okay with everyone, we'll open it up for a Q&A. And as you can tell, my curious robot there is excited for the Q&A. So if you have questions that we didn't get a chance to answer throughout the demo or throughout the you can if you can't tell, I'm on a lot of demos. If you haven't that you weren't able to ask throughout today's masterclass, feel free to drop those in the chat and happy to answer those.
I doubt
Uh,
that, Daniel. I mean, the question was, are we planning on extending it to other PSAs such as Fresh Desk? What, I'm sorry, I don't mean to answer your question, Byron.
No, you're okay. I it's not on the roadmap, Daniel. Are you are are you in, are you is there a potential interest to move to like an auto task or ConnectWise, or are you set on Fresh Desk today?
I think the biggest migration is happening to Halo.
Yeah, that's been a significant conversation point in a lot of my meetings. Is if we're in the process of wait until our current PSA agreement ends, and then we're going to migrate over to Halo. So a good time to be a Halo implementation consultant, that's for sure.
So yeah, so we were at the trade show, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, where there was a fire, and I think there was like 500 some odd people there, and I can't think of anyone that was migrating to anything but Halo. I didn't see anyone say, no, we're migrating to ConnectWise, we're migrating to Autodesk. If anybody was migrating, it was to Halo, and I'm talking these were hundreds of people.
And shout out to Craig for booking the first demo, or at least I got the notification that it went to me. So that's not to say that it wasn't the first demo book from today's session.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we got to make sure we edit this because we said a lot of inappropriate things at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, that's okay though. It wouldn't be an MSP webinar without something, at least one or two things that are inappropriate.
All right.
That's the one we're talking about. Thanks, Brandon. We'll go ahead and wrap this up. And as Joe mentioned, we'll send the recording. If you want help wiring your first motors, feel free to book a personal walkthrough. And thanks again for spending the hour with us. We've moved from reporting to results. We covered mirror versus motors, the 7 drivers, how sentiment becomes a concrete success plan. And if you want to, just as a homework item, pick one driver this week and make it automatic, right? Whether you're a current client of ours or not, just let that be a piece of the session that you take home with you. But we'll be on the lookout for that follow-up email recording. And we hope to see you again in future MSP Bots webinars. So thanks again. Have a great rest of your week, everyone.
Bye, guys.